Yo,
What up?
Yeah, how you doing, Trump?
I'm good, fam.
You good, Bama?
Yee, man. How's the wife?
Good man, chillin'?
You dorks ready for this?
Yeah, man, let's do this. Chris McLaren said he wants this done by tonight.
Yeah, I text Chris and said we'd get on it.
All right, let's do it. What we got first?
First is Kill 'Em All.
Kill 'em all is all right, but who really cares aside from seek and destroy?
That's what I think, and even then I prefer everything else they done. I haven't listened to Seek and Destroy in years, and it's the best track on there.
Hit the Lights and Whiplash are all right, but nothing special, just metal.
And when was the last time anybody ever mentioned Pulling Teeth, Metal Militia, or literally anything that aren't the songs we've already mentioned?
It's kind of like if someone put the album on, it's cool, but I'd rather listen to pretty much any other of my favorite metal songs if I had the choice.
But the album isn't even Metallica. It's just what they started with before they became what we all know and love.
So you guys think C or D?
I say put it in D, and we can move it up later on if we need to, but in my opinion it might as well be D tier.
I'm cool with that. I can't really argue considering I haven't listened to this album in years and don't plan to.
All right, D tier?
Ride the Lightning.
Yeah.
S tier?
Yeah, man.
This is when they came out with the bangers. Fade to Black, Creeping Death, For Whom the Bell Tolls, and Ride the Lightning.
Creeping Death is my jam. I see it as Ride the Lightning's version of Blackened.
Fade to Black is one of their best. Being the best on the album, the intro acoustic guitar arpeggio slays, and so do the intro and outro solos.
That intro arpeggio is like my favorite thing ever.
You guys remember the outro too, For Whom the Bell Tolls? They knew that was heavy as fuck, those hard stabs.
Yeah, that slaps. The whole song is mad catchy and pretty heavy.
Fight Fire with Fire too. They really went balls to the wall with that one, and the melodic solo.
Oh yeah, how could I forget? That slaps, another banger classic.
What do you guys think of Escape?
What?
Escape, a song on the album.
I completely forgot that existed.
I remember it, but didn't think it was too special when I first heard it. I don't like Call of Cthulhu either.
Yeah, who gives a fuck about that song? And I'd need to give Escape another listen. But I'm pretty sure if it was epic, it would be something that I couldn't live without instead of being reminded of it.
I think Call of Cthulhu is all right, but I know Call of Cthulhu doesn't get brought up very often. That and Escape are the only flaws of the album, as the rest of the songs, including Trapped Under Ice, either slap or are legendary.
I'm trapped under ice.
Hard.
So what, are we agreeing on S tier being some of Metallica's best work?
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, cool.
I'm totally Chubb for Master of Puppets.
You and me both.
Yeah, Master of Puppets.
Best shit, Master of Puppets. The song is Metallica's best, and every song on here slays.
Pretty much. One happens to be my favorite, but yeah, Master of Puppets is my second favorite Metallica song, and I like all the tracks on here. You must do a good job to have pretty much every Metallica fan who likes this album to be a crusader of every song on here.
Master of Puppets is the shit. It's my favorite Metallica track, and I don't really have anything bad to say about any song on the album, with the only expectation to be to somehow generally increase the quality next time, such as how some songs on Machine Head's The Blackening do rival, or dare I say, do better than some of these album tracks.
I love that album.
The only thing I can negatively say about Master of Puppets is I don't really give a shit about the second half of Orion. I do like it, but if you actually think about it, it might as well sound like any band. It just has the Master of Puppets album guitar tone, so you can tell that it's them.
That track is one of my favorites, but fair enough, it reminds me of simpler times listening to it in Cyprus with my old girlfriend, Nicole.
You had a girlfriend called Nicole?
Yeah, long time.
Fair. And Orion isn't one of my personal favorites from Master of Puppets, but I definitely know from people that I've spoken to that some people swear by it. Aside from the title track, my favorites are Battery, Damage Incorporated, and Leper Messiah. I know people say Leper Messiah is underrated, but whatever, who cares?
Damage Incorporated actually has my favorite Metallica solo, like when Hetfield shouts, "Go!" and then Kirk just rips a fucking whirlwind within the first 2 seconds. That's like he dropped a nuclear blast.
Yeah, that song rips. Creeping Death, Blackened, Damage Incorporated, and Dyer's Eve are like the Thrash 4 from Metallica songs.
I love that stab riff in Battery after the solo. It literally sounds like you're repeatedly being punched in the face. It's like the heaviest thing ever, definitely one of their more heavier riffs. If something like that isn't strong enough to help you fight pain, then I don't know what will.
Yeah, Battery is hard. They knew it. Great pick for an opener. I remember jamming to Gears of War 2, listening to Disposable Heroes. And I re-listened to the thing that should not be at the gym recently, and they have this mad heavy chug riff in it. But once all the vocal sections are all done, they just ride that riff out as much as they can. They needed to wean out as much as they could get from that riff, as if just using it sparingly throughout the previous sections wasn't doing it justice. Just play it for us to enjoy for as long as possible, where it would go down as another legendary slaying section, and that they did. You can tell they gave a fuck.
Also, just as a general point, I think regardless of our personal connection to the album, neither of us fully dislike a track on here, which from what I know, seems to even reflect the majority of Metallica fans. I'm pretty sure despite the fact that this is our list, if you did a poll to find out which is the fan base's favorite Metallica album, I bet Master of Puppets would come out on top.
Yeah, it slays. I personally slightly prefer Justice. I know that's a personal thing, but I can't deny that Master of Puppets is a gleaming example of metal written by competent and actual songwriters, which I feel is its strongest merit.
So yeah, S tier.
Also, Kirk should do some more sweep picking like he did in Leper Messiah. That shit's hard. It's been like 40 years.
Fuck yeah, man.
So Joe, what you saying about Justice?
My personal favorite one is my favorite Metallica track, and in my opinion, the best song ever written. For me, I just find that the style of this album is so crisp and chunky, it's so metal, it's shining.
Yeah, I think One and Master of Puppets are the two Metallica tracks that are on another level compared to the rest. I do think that I like every song on here except Eye of the Beholder. My favorites being One, Dyer's Eve, and To Live is to Die. Could even say To Live is to Die is underrated, considering I think it's one of the best songs on the album.
The only people who don't like One are pretentious dumbasses with stupid opinions. I even had a friend who said that one sucked because it was too long and the first half and the second should have been split into different songs. What an absolute dickhead.
Yeah, fuck him.
Regardless, every song on here is very strong, with One being one of their best and Dyer's Eve and Blackened being classic. I'd personally put Justice in between Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning, as I pretty much enjoy everything on here, even if some songs aren't as recognizable as on Ride the Lightning, such as Fade to Black, Creeping Death, and For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Yeah, Blackened goes hard. And I just personally prefer the album tracks from Master of Puppets slightly more than, say, Harvester of Sorrow. And when we are talking from this great of a height, me not liking Eye of the Beholder automatically makes me like this album less than Master of Puppets. And I'd put this album below Ride the Lightning too, because I can't deny those classic bangers. But I feel that all three albums are quintessential.
So I know where you stand, Joe, obviously. Trump, you still saying S tier and not A?
Yeah, just below the lower half of S tier, but still comfortably within it. Metallica's best three albums will sit there perfectly.
Sweet.
Can I share my thoughts on the Black Album?
Go ahead.
See, unless you're a diehard fan of the Black Album, I genuinely think my opinion of it is literally how it is. Nothing Else Matters is a completely handcrafted track that has its place. And even though it isn't thrash, it is one of their biggest tracks because of how strong and purposeful it is. It is legit and is one of my favorite Metallica tracks. Aside from Enter Sandman, that radio bullshit, you have the next biggest tracks like Wherever I May Roam, The Unforgiven, and Sad But True, which are quite well written. The Unforgiven a bit more so than Wherever I May Roam. And even if Sad But True sound like a different band. Now here is the problem. The rest of the album, so literally half, is no way up to the standard of the previous three albums. You can't tell me that Through the Never or Of Wolf and Man is as strong as Welcome Home Sanitarium. And Sanitarium is just a casual album track.
Yeah, I personally love hating on Don't Tread on Me, Who the Fuck? And nobody can tell me that The Struggle Within isn't some bullshit basic track that somehow is a complete fall from grace that's immediately so.
I actually heard Enter Sandman before I heard the song Master of Puppets, and I really enjoyed it. But I heard Master of Puppets and genuinely thought that this is the real shit. It honestly sounded dark, and I thought the name was awesome.
I just don't understand that just because you wrote a song that is okay, or I guess not completely shit, that means Enter Sandman then gets blown out of proportion. If Metallica's songs were any worse than Enter Sandman, I would say that they would be a garbage band.
I think aside from the main bigger songs that you mentioned, Trump, you can still clearly see that they were writing with new kinds of riffs, kind of reminiscent of Slipknot and Stone Sour. But I think the problem, or at least what I think, is that the material here is fundamentally not up to the status of what came before. The God That Failed is fine, but it is not on the same skill level as, say, Thee and Justice for All track. If Metallica played me The God That Failed, and a different band had written And Justice for All, and I shown it to Metallica, if they claimed that they could write something that hard, or hell, even Dyer's Eve or Blackened, based on The God That Failed or Through the Never, I would be skeptical.
I personally enjoy pretty much every track on here except Don't Tread on Me and Holier Than Thou, so in terms of a tier, I would think B is maybe reasonable.
Yeah, half of the album is quite strong, and it is possible to enjoy an amount of the rest. I do like The God That Failed. And My Friend of Misery, for example, and considering we'd be going from S down past A and into the range of B, I'd say that's fair.
Based on how many songs that I like from this album, so less than you, I'd need to give it a C, but based on all of our taste, we're 2-1, so I'd say as a whole, B or even a low B is fine.
Sounds good to me. What are your guys' thoughts on Load and Reload?
Me and Donnie have spoken about this before from what we know about Metallica. We know that they genuinely try to make song to a certain level of quality. You know, they won't just use anything, like they won't just go, oh shit, play something, like, oh good, record that. I don't know it has been explicitly stated, but I feel that they only finish a song if the material is good and if they are happy with how it is arranged. My point is that even with Load and Reload, you can tell that they were trying to write what they thought was great material that they came up with. I guess The Memory Remains and King Nothing are good examples, so simply saying these albums suck just because they're no longer thrash, or at most heavy metal, is unjust.
Yeah, I mean, I like a few songs like The Memory Remains, Until It Sleeps, King Nothing, and The Unforgiven 2. But I can tell that this style is something where, okay, I might like a few songs, but I don't expect anything more than that. Kind of like if this was a band that I already know isn't my kind of thing, because they're a rock band and not an extreme metal band. So as Joe said, I'm not going to hold anything against it. And we know the songs were cared for regardless. So what's the point in saying it's trash when to somebody who would love this style, I would imagine to them these albums to be pretty great. What wanky-ass rock band are writing hits such as these that are so much harder?
Yeah, I like all the songs you said, Trump, and I know we both like Fuel too. I don't know what it is about those songs, but people just seem to know when songs have an it factor, hence why all those tracks got a video. But ironically, I happened to look up the track list to load, and because I barely knew anything about it, track names such as 2x4 and The House That Jack Built seriously piqued my curiosity. Like I just thought, what the fuck is that? So I had to listen to some of them, and I ended up also liking Wasting My Hate and The Outlaw Torn. You guys should check out Wasting My Hate. I thought it was pretty banging. What are you saying, Joe?
I don't know, it's just not my kind of thing in terms of my taste. I know people like some songs, but it's all the same, which don't do it for me. I can tell you right now that this might be a recurring thing for me, so if this is the case, you and Donald just decide on a tier, so it's fair to the album's genuine merit. It would be like me saying the Barbie Girl song sucks because I don't like it. I mean, how the fuck would I actually know when I obviously don't listen to Danish, Norwegian, Euro pop?
All right, Donald, what are you saying? You thinking B or C?
I think B is a safe bet. I don't think we'll get flamed for that, especially since we're being fair. How many YouTube commenters have ever done that? When absolute ultimately, I couldn't really give a fuck about this shit. I'd barely notice if these songs were gone out of everything else that I listened to.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. B for these two.
So what's next exactly?
We're just going to St. Anger.
Well, I'm pretty sure I'm the biggest fan of this album out of the three of us, considering how I'm the only person I know who is, unless I go onto the songs on YouTube and see people in the comments saying how they actually like the album. Can I just say straight up? The song Shoot Me Again is one of my favorite Metallica songs after Master of Puppets and One Etc., and is probably one of the tracks I listen to most. It's literally hard, serious groove metal, and I love it. Aside from that being one of my favorite Metallica tracks ever, I love Frantic. St. Anger is pretty good, and I like it as much as almost every other track on there. Only 3 tracks on the album that I don't like being Purify, My World, and Dirty Window. What the fuck is a dirty window? Jokes aside, my thoughts on where the album could maybe lack is that some riffs and material literally just sound strange. Strange literally being the word I'd use to describe them. Like you got Frantic being a hard, even if a tad bit generic metal or new metal track. But you delve deeper into the album and you just start hearing weird random shit. Literally almost like a more metal version of Lulu, even if these parts still sound good. But I can imagine that could be where people turn off. Especially if they want something heavy and genuinely serious, which I feel Shoot Me Again does. which mirrors a similar sound to Frantic and I guess some kind of monster.
Yeah, like when the album came out, I had to listen. But you know where bands have their best song first, then their next best song second, and then their next best third, where unless the album turns out to be your thing, by the time you're on the third track, you're usually right on the edge and you just think, nah. So like I thought Frantic was okay, Saint Anger meh, and then some kind of monster, maybe some parts were all right, but by this point I didn't bother to listen to anymore. But remind me to listen to Shoot Me Again, though. I could maybe try that.
Yeah, by this point I didn't bother because I knew it wouldn't blow me away, so I didn't care. Maybe if I listened to the whole thing, I could find one song that I like, but whatever, I've got better things to deal with. You know, I'm just not bothered.
So Trump, as an avid listener even, where would you put this album? I don't think it would be a problem to put this album on a tier that's actually where it would go if somebody actually liked it. I mean, I'd actually be curious to see what it would be through the ears of someone who doesn't just automatically shit on it. I know we did kill 'em all dirty just putting it in D tier by our taste, but hell, if we went by who raves about that album, it would be triple S, so whatever.
You know, I'd actually just put it in B thinking about it. I like it almost as much as the Black Album, where the bigger tracks on that one are the only thing stopping me from liking Saint Anger more, actually.
Yeah, that's fair. Sounds about right, Joe. You got objections?
No, I'm cool with that. Speaking sense to me, and I don't give a fuck anyway.
B tier it is then. All right, up next is Death Magnetic. Did anyone else think it was a return to form?
Yeah, I did, pretty much completely. I'm sure you could have seen that one coming, but honestly, The Day That Never Comes completely sounds like old Metallica, and even as is, could still be placed on Justice and no one would notice. Brilliant song. The rest of the songs aren't as good and are maybe a bit worse than the album tracks from, say, Master of Puppets, but as a whole, this album rocks, and the solo to End of the Line is one of my favorites, along with Damage Incorporated. The only songs that I don't like from the album are My Apocalypse and The Judas Kiss.
By this point, I pretty much fell out of the loop, so I barely noticed, but Donnie knew that I should give the album a try, and we listened to the whole thing one night. I do really like The Day That Never Comes and All Nightmare Long. Some of the other ones are okay, like That Was Just Your Life, Suicide and Redemption, and The End of the Line, but I find I just don't bother, and I'm not too big of a fan of Hetfield's voice nowadays either.
Yeah, I really like the album. I like My Apocalypse and The Judas Kiss. And I can vouch too, and that The Day That Never Comes and All Nightmare Long are great. The only one that I thought was mid was Cyanide, if I remember rightly. Would you say an upper A tier or low S? I think a very high A, like 9 out of 10 A is right.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, do it. I'm probably still a bit biased, and I could even compromise and say bottom of A for me, just not to shift things. I do really respect that the album is still genuinely a throwback to the good old days. And if you guys think A, then sounds about right.
Hey, tier it is then for Death Magnetic.
Trump, you told me that you weren't a big fan of Hardwired, didn't you?
Nah, not me personally. I listen to every song, and I only like Hardwired, Moth into Flame, and Dream No More. I want to like more, but I do think the songs suck. My favorite thing on the album is the chorus to Dream No More. It's so heavy, and there are 3 massive chord strums that sound behemoth-like. But yeah, the writing on this album sucks. I don't know what happened. Like multiple songs start with mindless power chord stabs, Atlas Rise is generic as fuck, and is still the next best track after the 3 I mentioned. I can't believe that people hear the first few seconds of Spit Out the Bone and don't immediately turn it off. And Man Unkind is the worst thing I've ever heard, and considering how it's a Metallica song, it's literally as if in its current state it's some kind of freak accident, because how can it be that awful? This album is the first time that I've heard Metallica material where I feel like the talent is slipping.
Have you heard any of the tracks, Joe?
Coincidentally, I have, and I only like Moth into Flame and Hardwired. I barely like Hardwired. Like, there is no way that you can argue that that song is special. And even though I like Moth into Flame, it simply gets a pass. I do enjoy it. But it's only something to write home about if you didn't know of any other metal song like Fuck Me. Because it is just like, it's not like I haven't liked a song before. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You got thoughts?
I liked about half of the album. I do like Spit Out the Bone and Here Comes Revenge is banging, but I still wouldn't give the album more than a C, I think.
I'd give it a D or a low C.
D for me.
Let's go with D. Depending which one of us you ask, Kill 'Em All could probably be seen as the better album, but whatever, fuck it. Art is subjective, so we could put these anywhere and we still got it done.
Yes, sweet. Are you sending this clip to Chris? This is going on his YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, I'll send it over. We transferred.
All right, nice, done. I'm going over to McLaren's on Saturday. He said he just ordered a copy of Mario Party 6 with the microphone, and we're going to hit it. You should come if you ain't busy.
Yeah, I'll see. I'll just let you know, fam.
Sorted. All right, I'll catch you guys later.
Yeah, peace, home dog.
See ya.
Yeah, man, peace. See ya, Trump.
Yeah, man.